mystical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network's Hot Take Show here for the Woody Harrelson and Jack White's Five Timers Night on Saturday Night Live. These nights are always really fun. I guess they've been happening more often, more recently, but it is something that is supposed to be historic and rare, and I am really honored to get to cover it with some great people this week and get to talk to all of our friends in the chat and get their thoughts on this episode. So glad to be back with you. If you're just checking in again after a few weeks off, we have a great, few weeks of SNL to come. So excited to be with all of you tonight, and especially with my man, Andrew Haynes. Haynes, how are you?
What's up, everybody? So excited to be here on Sunday morning again. Serving up some hot takes. I definitely have some. So looking forward to passing it around.
Absolutely. First time Haynes on the Hot Take Show this season. So in case you missed him at all, he's been on the roundtables doing a great job this season. So welcome back to the Hot Take Show, Haynes. And of course, also the first time this season on the Hot Take Show, it is the amazing Jillian Sederholm from Entertainment Weekly. Jillian, how are you?
Hello. I am changing my name officially now. It is Mrs. Dingleberry's Gooch Balloon ASDF JKL semicolon 69.
You got
Legally
it.
69.
Yeah, 269. But that's amazing. Well, very happy to have you back on the show, Jillian. I know you are always an amazing follow on social media, as well as somebody who just knows so much about SNL. So it's always great to have you on the show tonight. So, chat, we want to get your thoughts as we go through tonight, which is, it is a historic night, people entering the Five Timers Club, which is the most meta aspect of SNL that there is. So I'm very pumped to talk about this, the way that they handled all of it, the unexpected cameo at the end, which we'll get to eventually. But before we get into all of the sketches, we start off our show with a headline or hot take from the night. And Haynes, kick it off.
Hot take for the show. Best performance of the night, easily, Jack White.
Okay, why?
I just felt that, honestly, for the most part, a lot of the sketches were middling, and his performances, both of them, were just really powerful, particularly the first one. I mean, it's just classic rock and roll. I do have kind of a, badass rock and roll bone deep down in my body. I just love, big badass rock and roll, and he there's not a lot of it anymore, and he just brought it tonight. Yeah, so it was great.
Absolutely. All right, well, Jillian, what is your hot take for the night?
It turns out Woody Harrelson really likes pot. Who knew?
That's the coldest take of life.
But I don't think I was high enough for this episode, though, is my hot take.
Yes, that is fair. For me, let me, sort of talk about my process, which is typically when we have a returning host, I spend the week, sort of checking out the old sketches, reminding myself of their old episodes. And I decided I'm going to do something different tonight. I decided I was going to binge the 4 previous Woody Harrelson episodes prior to tonight, so I could watch them all in a row like a giant movie to see the growth potential. And I do find, and we'll talk about this more on the roundtable on Monday, but I really found that the arc of Woody Harrelson, you sort of hit a rut a little bit in season 45. He had an amazing season 40 episode. The ones back in season 15 and 17 were really strong, but I was like, not everything was clicking for multiple reasons all the way back in 45, and I was hoping for a return to form. And I think that there are things that I'm going to point out in the sketches tonight that I think really work when it comes to Woody Harrelson. He's a specific type of performer. He is a la a Will Forte or Mike Myers, perhaps, where you could sort of place him in a certain part of the show, and I think he really clicks. But I think as a host, you really have to write in a very unique way for Woody to succeed on the show, and they have done that in the past. I'm not sure that they did that everywhere tonight. So overall, my headline for the night is I think this was sort of a mid-show. And for anyone who was expecting, the John Mulaney levels of Five Timers Club, I hope you weren't disappointed, because, that's not going to happen every single time. But overall, I think there were some good things. And I think that they did a really fun runner with the 5-timers bit, which we'll get into in a moment as well. So excited to break this all down with all of you. But let's start with our cold open from tonight. And tonight we are talking about the Donald Trump train visit cold open. This is our 12th JAJ as Trump. The first time we are seeing him in 2023. The last time was in the Austin Butler episode. And this time we have Trump visiting East Palestine to talk about the train derailment that happened at the beginning of February. And of course, we're getting the usual tropes of, JAJ as Trump going completely off topic. We also have Chloe coming in playing Emily Kors, the foreperson of the Atlanta-based grand jury. And it's really just the two of them in this one, but mostly a Trump-focused cold open, which we haven't gone in a little bit. So Haynes, how'd you feel about it?
Listen, in the moment, first of all, I know that people get tired of the political cold opens. This wasn't overly, it's starring the character as Donald Trump, but it didn't feel overly politicized. We're kind of just, there's not a lot of left and right stuff going on. We're kind of just making fun of, again, the way he tends to ramble like in these little speeches and often, not care about the people that he's showing up for. We're doing that kind of thing. And so it was fine. It felt long. At times, I still always love that impression. I don't get as disappointed, when he shows up as some other folks do. I just think it's such an exceptional impression. And it gets plenty of laughs from me. It felt like I was saying to myself, man, this is a heck of a monologue. Chloe eventually came in, but really long leading up to that. And Chloe's character did not land for me at all. And it sounded like it wasn't landing for the audience either. So, I wasn't super impressed with it, but I admit, after some of the other sketches that I was seeing, as I was thinking back over the episode, it made this one shine a little bit brighter because I did think there were some duds tonight.
So I had no idea who Emily Kors was. So on a commercial break, I was like, let me just Google Emily Kors and see like what Chloe was going for here. And there was I think it was from 3 days ago, an interview on CNN with Emily Kors, which I believe is probably exactly what Chloe based her portrayal off of. And it seemed to me that this portrayal was fairly accurate as well. So it wasn't just like a Chloe character that was stretched out. I think there was really, beat for beat sort of what Emily Kors is. And Jillian, I'd love to know how you felt about the cold open you saw tonight.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Andrew on it, but I was semi-familiar with the interview you're referring to. And so she did seem spot on in at least appearance. And I even did Google it also to look at the outfit that the real Emily was wearing. And I think it was it looked like exactly the same shirt. So props to the wardrobe department for doing their magic. But yeah, I guess I am a fan of JAJ's impression. I'm just always blown away by how great he is. But I think the Trump had kind of run its course and he was doing the same, the bit of the rambling Trump and doing kind of the list of topics just without having those topics on the screen that we normally have. But at the end, he even listed, here's all the topics that I had just rambled over. So I thought it was okay, but it wasn't my favorite.
For sure. I liked the little bit about Schitt's Creek and you guys watch Yellowstone. I thought that was pretty good. But let me ask you two a question that I was pondering. At the time, in season 45, I wasn't the biggest fan of Woody Harrelson playing Joe Biden. But would it have been a fun opportunity here, perhaps, to have Woody's Biden playing alongside JAJ as Trump? Haynes, what do you think?
Yeah, I do think that would have been fun. And obviously, I don't think that this was a huge week for Biden news as far as, anything really fun to play off of that would be particularly topical for this week. But yeah, I think that would have been fun. It doesn't bother me too much that it didn't happen, but I, it was, listen, I thought his Biden was something. There was something there. It was a little, so it would have been fun to see him playing with Trump. Sure.
What do you think, Jillian? Should they have had fun with that and put Woody back in the Biden role?
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. But I think that would have been a opportunity to do something fun. And I did see a lot of tweets that people were calling out that it was, kind of a bad week, not a fun week for Biden, but that like their choice of only playing up like the Trump angle of the response to the train crash, they could have at least skirted that by doing something with both of them, whether it was avoiding the real news altogether. But I think that would have been a smart way in.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it would have been just fun to play with the idea that this is Woody's night and that, you know, a 5-timer night is a little bit representative of, you know, a host career at the show. So I think maybe even though the impression itself wasn't so great, I think that would have been a fun way to include it. So that was sort of my 2 cents on it. I was thinking about that a little bit. Let's head over to the monologue, though, which was very Woody Harrelson, so much so that there were points in this, Jillian, where I had no idea what he was talking about because the rambling, it was going on and on. And I guess that was sort of the point. There were things that I wish that he would have done with this. Did this work for you, though, Jillian, the monologue tonight?
Not really. I mean, I did like at first, I thought he was coming out in his pajamas again, like he had done one of the previous times. But yeah, it just got so rambly, but not in a, like at first I was like, oh, okay, this could be a funny thing where he keeps getting back to this story, but it just didn't really have the payoff for me. I like that he, at first I was kind of confused by like the shout out to the manager, and that did appear to be his real manager, Jeremy. So I like that he kind of embarrassed him, but I thought that there might be more of a payoff there. I don't know. It was just like, he lost me there, I think.
Haynes, did he lose you too?
Listen, it's like he was trying to, but you know, I was trying really hard to stay with him. You know, I was doing my best. I agree that the bit about manager Jeremy, especially when they threw the graphic on the screen that said brought drugs from LA, very funny. It started out as, or it seemed like it was going to start out as a Unite America, red versus blue, I'm purple thing. And then the purple, it sounded like he was like making like, just a good point. And then it kind of finished in a way like it was supposed to be a joke, but there wasn't any laugh. And so, yeah, I was a little bit lost there. And I went, okay, that's weird. And then obviously the story he's telling about reading the script was, it was definitely supposed to be rambling like that. But, we get these little interjections where, a couple times he reaches out and sticks his arms out waiting for the jacket. And there were just the flow of it was chunky. And yeah, like Jillian said, it didn't completely work for me.
Okay, a couple things. First, he says that in season 45, he hosted around Thanksgiving. No, he hosted the premiere. Sorry, I don't know if that was like on purpose or not a part of the bit, but that drove me nuts. Second of all, the part about him waiting for the jacket is exactly what I wanted from this monologue. I love the fact that he was like full on like Titanic, like waiting for somebody to put the jacket on him. And he did it twice. You're right, Haynes. Like once at the beginning sort of, and then once at exactly the end. But wow, was there a great bit here of him just getting continuously frustrated at nobody putting the jacket around his arms that they completely avoided and went down this other path. And again, I know I'm not a Saturday Night Live writer, but it just felt like it was right there.
That's a great point. I love what you just said there. Yes, that's something that they should have dug into. I don't know why they didn't, but that would have been funny. And I agree that like overall, I like the way they did the jacket thing, and I'm glad that it started out as a tease. And then, we finally get it at the end in a short but sweet ceremony, if you want to call it that. But yeah, it's a great point. They could have dug into the frustration there. It was right there for the taking. And that sounds like something that would have worked. Of course, I'm guessing on paper, this sounded like it was going to work too. Right. But for some reason it didn't.
Yeah, the audience was really giving him nothing. And I mean, I wasn't giving him much more at home myself, but it sounded like he kept waiting for a laughter break or thinking that there was going to be more payoff between the long rambles than there were at everything other than the manager bit. So I think I would have been on board if there was something that had more of a punchline between the long rambly bits, and then it would be funnier that he was going back to it. But the jacket thing was the only piece of it that I kind of got a kick out of, as long as we did eventually get payoff from it, which we did. So
and
okay
can I'll just toss this out there as long as we're talking about the monologue. The final joke that they ended on was just not strong enough to be a closing joke for that monologue. I mean, especially since the whole thing was kind of a setup to that. And I know that we're supposed to be taking the journey of the ramble and getting back to it, and the ramble and getting back to it. But still, if that's, even though there's that joke in itself there, it's still a long setup for this final punchline, and it was just not a strong enough joke to close a monologue.
Yeah, it felt like a story that maybe he tells sometimes, and like maybe it was a story that he was, I don't know, telling at a cast dinner or something, and they like got a big laugh out of them because they're like, oh yeah, you know, of course you do drugs every day. But yeah, it just did not have the payoff.
For sure. And I will say Woody has had some pretty good monologues. You know, if you go back to his previous ones, he sings a lot. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if this fully hit. Let's head over to Jail Scene. This is a DiCenzo and Nordwind piece where Woody Harrelson is in jail and his girlfriend, I believe Chloe, is visiting. And really the fun bit of this is, you know, they do the classic on the phone thing where they're talking to each other, but you're getting the perspective of Ego as the guard, Johnson, who's commenting on what Woody's saying. And then Keenan as guard Jackson is commenting on what Chloe's saying. So basically, this is a bit between not just the principal characters, but the bit players in the background who start to get involved and take over the scene. And it ends up being the perspective of the guards as opposed to the prisoner and his visitor. So, Haynes, how do you feel about Jail Scene tonight?
Well, I'll tell you, it picked up steam for me because after, you know, the cold open felt long, the monologue was just kind of dismal. And then when this started, you know, I wasn't getting any laughs really out of the exchange between Woody and Chloe, and you know, they had just kind of not gotten a lot of laughs from me together in the cold open, and I'm kind of going like, oh gosh, what's going on here? Yeah, I was a little not excited for it, and especially I'm just kind of have an aversion to like really bad generic Southern rural accents that Chloe was doing, and she does such great impressions in general. I just think that's not a good one. At least that one wasn't. And so I was kind of like, man, this episode is really not off to a great start. That's the way I was feeling, honestly. And
so what turned around for you?
As soon as I heard Ego, I'm going, okay, she's gonna steal the sketch, and I didn't know that she would eventually become, you know, a main character in it. I really love the format. You know, the chirping from both sides, and then eventually them both talking to each other and talking over each other, so that we're kind of hearing, you know, the two dialogues, and then it ends at kind of a point of unity. I love that format. Still, I didn't think this sketch was like amazing, but it definitely picked up from. I was scared when it started, and it finished much better than that. But I think I like the format more than the actual execution.
I find it so fascinating that they put this sketch up top, because it's not a traditional sketch that you would see near the top of the night. On By the Numbers last time during the Pedro Pascal week, I was on with Mike Murray, and we were talking about all the, you know, by the post monologue sketches and what types of sketches we get. And this is a very unique sketch. So I was already very fascinated, Jillian, when I saw this there. For you, did this execute?
Yeah, once I got the conceit of what they were doing, I was a fan of it. I wasn't like blown away by the comedy of it, but I thought Ego was doing a great job. And then when it became her and Keenan doing it, I am always impressed when they do something that involves a format that takes a little different acting skill. And so like the point where Ego was doing her monologue and then Woody and Chloe were like silently talking to each other, like suddenly they became background actors having a conversation. I thought that was smart. And then when Keenan and Ego were just talking at the exact same time, and I couldn't even tell what they were saying, but it was really funny. It kind of reminded me of the sketch where Keenan was doing the fast forward and rewind, where it was like the what was it, the will of the dad in the other room, but like it turned out he was, across the set doing it. I'm always impressed when they do something like that, but it did come really early for me. I agree with you there.
Yeah, from the Zoe Kravitz episode last season. I would say for
Yes.
this sketch in particular, I have a little bit of a weird take on it, which is I didn't love it when Ego and Keenan sat down to talk to each other. I actually much preferred it when they were being the voices behind them and sort of like making fun of what they were saying. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to get out of here soon. Like, no, he's not. Like that, for me, was really clicking. And then I think when they sort of like took over the conversation, it changed the tone of the sketch for me a little bit. And it became more that these two are gossiping with each other, as opposed to there being like the whole sketch was based on the fact that they're saying the truth. And I wish they just would have dug in further on that, for me, at least.
I'll just say this. I thought that it was a fun way to, it was just, I just thought it was a fun way to piece a sketch together. And I like the creative risk there. I mean, they weren't showing like, risky like content, in a way that not safe for work way, but I felt like it was a little bit of a creative risk to write this cool type of sketch and to put it where they did in the show. And so I applaud all that.
Totally second that. Okay, let's head over to Please Don't Destroy. It's always fun when we get this at the top of the show. So here we get the 13th Please Don't Destroy pre-tape called Stakeout. And this time we have Ben Marshall, who thinks that John Higgins and Martin Hurley are hanging out and doing things without him. So Woody Harrelson shows up and said, let's go on a stakeout. And they go and they show up at the house and they see that they're throwing the phones away, making out, having kids. There's this like weird like time thing going on where the kids keep getting older. Martin and John are like full on couple mode. Uncle Keenan shows up and throws his phone away. They're destroying the Ben pillow and having auditions for other redheads. Jillian, I love this so much. This was the point of the night where I was like, yes, finally.
Yeah, this was where I was like, okay, this episode might be making a turn for me. I thought it was really funny. I love it when they just get totally chaotic and start doing the really fast pace stuff. I loved the auditioning. I love that the kids thing. I think this was my second favorite sketch of the night.
Okay. Haynes, was this your favorite sketch of the night?
Well, let me think about that. So I liked it a lot. I need to think about all the other sketches that went down. But listen, this was hilarious. It was it definitely it did turn the episode. There's no doubt about that. I mean, just full of tons of great lines, but obviously, I mean, the reveal, listen, when they start snuggling up, you could see that it's a little bit funny that they've been hiding this relationship from him. But when the kids show up, I mean, that's just an amazing reveal. And yeah, I mean, it's really funny that they have a teenage son. And of course they're like beating up this pillow that with Ben's face on it. And he learns that, it's almost like they really hate him, while he's watching all this stuff go down. But I love Woody Harrelson pulling out the gun and being like, you ready to go in there? And he's like, dude, it is not about that. And then also when he's just like, Ben's like, this is so insane. After they first start hooking up, Woody Harrelson's like, it's 2015. It's not insane to be gay, man. And he's like, it's not 2015. Yeah. So this had a lot going for it. And yeah, this is why I watch SNL is for great comedy like this.
For sure, but this is when Woody's at his best, right? Is when you like put him in this role where he could be that guy who comes in as like the weird one, the absurd one. And I think that's sort of like the Forte-esque part of Woody that I really liked here, where he was the wild card character into this extremely odd universe that they were building. I also love the fact that it was John and Martin as the sons of former and current SNL writers and producers, with all the talks about Nepo babies, that I think it was just fun that they were the ones that they got together here. But for me, it was the little things. I think they just had like a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of cool stuff that's happening throughout. I love throughout the scene. I love the fact that at some point Ben turns into Woody, and then they're realizing that it like zooms out into the PDD office, and then they're actually editing it, so they're taking Ben out of it as well. I think, you know, this was cool because we always talk about out of the office PDD versus in the office PDD, but this time we actually got a really fun blend of both. And maybe that is the perfect solution for them, is to, you know, have the office be involved, but also to be able to explore other areas of whether it's NBC or outside. So for me, this was a strong win here from PDD.
No doubt about it. And and I loved that we got to see multiple times. They made sure that you understood anytime this guy texts, I'm throwing that phone away. I'm not even touching that phone when 100%. Ben texts me.
That's what I do when you text me, Haynes.
Okay.
Okay, let's head over to Slingshot. So Slingshot is our next sketch here, and this is a amusement park sketch where Heidi, Woody, Eggo, and Keenan are all at the amusement park, and Molly and Michael are operating the ride. When we get initially Woody and Keenan going on, and it's sort of like a little bit of a misleading opening where it seems like Woody is the one who's really nervous about going on the ride, but it turns out that Keenan is the one who keeps drifting in and out of consciousness on the roller coaster. And then we get different variations of people riding the ride with Keenan here. So Jillian, how do you feel about Slingshot?
I felt like it had more potential than payoff to me. Like, it was a whole sketch of Keenan reacts, and there were some of them that worked for me and I got a kick out of, but I don't know if I needed to see it 3 times. I liked when Eggo was on it and the wind really kicked in and her wig looked like it was about to fly off. But it was kind of middle of the road for me for an SF sketch.
Haynes, how do you feel?
Yeah, listen, this was better than some other sketches throughout the night. I feel like it kind of peaked, you know, with the first reveal that he, you know, is passing out, is when they're really hitting the G's or just fear or whatever it is. And so, it didn't feel like it plummeted downhill from there or anything, but
no pun intended.
Right. But pun unavoidable. But they it didn't really advance beyond that. I mean, there are a few other good lines, like when he reveals to Eggo that he's like, I thought you were in the Air Force. He's like, I just painted the planes. And then so there's there's a few funny moments like that. And we find out he lost his job 3 weeks ago, and he says, I peed myself. I peed on everything. So there's some funny lines while we're kind of leveraging the distress that he's in. But I do feel like the first reveal that he passes out was probably the peak. And like I said, it didn't plummet from there or anything, but I don't know if it advanced much.
I totally agree. I mean, let's talk about the good here. The technical work was outstanding on this one. It looked really, really great. Loved what they did with this. I think the concept was good. As Bill Kenny says in our chat, that he was told by his daughter, this is based on a real video. I've seen plenty of videos of this sort of thing. I think Jimmy Fallon often plays one where there's a bird that just like flies into somebody's face when they're on a roller coaster.
The infamous Fabio.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, there was that. Yes, exactly. I might be mixing up two things, but there is that. But yes, there are crazy roller coaster situations that have happened many times, and I felt like there's fun things at play here, but it sort of went nowhere for me. Like it was like, okay, he just passed out, and it wasn't like the bit about like Woody being nervous, like sort of went nowhere, and it was just like more just physical comedy from Keenan to like see like how much he could pull off the passing in and out and like the things that were happening to his body. So I would say this was the low point for me for the night, believe it or not, is that I actually didn't feel like I felt like poor execution here. So, but on a technical level, crew, you did a fantastic job with this. So that was my only thing about that. Okay.
Yeah, I wish that he had like actually fallen out of it, or like tried to like need to climb back up the side or something. Like if you're going to go physical humor, I think maybe you could have gone even more in for the second or third time you're on the ride.
Yes, 100%. Wish that was there. All right, let's head over to, as Jillian alluded to before, submarine launch. And this time, this is a Bula and PDD sketch where we get the entire male cast here with Woody, all at the submarine launch where they are talking in pure Army speak. It's very fun to have like Woody just, continually doing the Army voice. And basically, we get the whole story, which is they had to name the submarine, and they ended up putting up a poll on Instagram to determine the name. And the name from, I believe it was at Gay Kevin from The Office, suggested Mr. Dingleberry's Gooch Balloon ASDF JKL semicolon 6969, and that ends up being the name of the submarine. And it's a lot of yelling through all of this. So, Jillian, what do you think of submarine launch?
I thought it was really funny, the name and the concept that we have seen happen before with these ships and things getting named, ridiculous names based on Reddit polls. But then I think I kind of wish that I was like, oh, the payoff came so early. I don't know where else they're going to go with this. And I don't think they really went enough places for me. It was fun to see all the male cast members there. I don't know if women are barred from submarines. I don't know submarine law, but I was kind of curious why there were no women in the sketch, but I did like, I guess, at least getting to see all the guys together. Yeah, like once they said the name so early, I was just wondering where they were going to go from there. But I did like the joke when we got it.
Yeah, I think the cast turnover was extremely noticeable when you line up everybody in a row like that.
Mhm.
So that was something interesting that I haven't noticed this season, just based on the combinations. And I don't think we have had an all male cast sketch, but I agree with you, Julia. That is a weird note. Like, why? But for me, I really found it fascinating to do something so juvenile in what is supposed to be such a serious format. And that's what really turned around the night for me when I was enjoying this sketch much more than the previous one. Haynes, how did you feel about it?
Overall, I thought it was very dumb, but pretty funny. So, that's fine with me. Basically, it seems like aside from, we got this ridiculous name, but we've got this kind of running joke that, the commander is asking these questions that really, should any of them know any of these answers, and all of them know these answers and are giving word for word, like rehearsed responses. So that's kind of funny. Everyone knows why his wife is leaving him and that kind of stuff. So, it was, I don't know how to articulate it, but it was an interesting relationship that he had with these gentlemen. And it was fun to see. It was an interesting way for him to be the butt of those jokes, while we're also just having fun, making fun of this phenomenon, which is the polls and naming things with the polls. And of course, this insanely long name, which they originally pronounced the middle section Astajackal, and then decided that it would be better to pronounce the letters because it was too complicated or something. So yeah, I mean, as I said, it was very dumb but pretty funny. So funny works for me.
Yeah, and I think it's really fascinating. One of the conversations we've had a lot this season is about how the male cast, or maybe the cast in general even, doesn't seem to have like that alpha, dominant level performer that could appear in these sketches. And I thought it was fun to basically put these cast members in those roles, which is supposed to be like the sir, yes, sir, when we've been talking about the type of roles that they fit in this season. So I thought that was like a fun element or aspect, to look at the sketch from a meta perspective. But as far as the individual sketch is concerned, I think this was a big, return to form from the previous one, where I felt like there was an actual, really good through line here that I enjoyed. And speaking of enjoying, I loved what we got next, which was the pre-tape Cologuard, where Woody meets Cologuard here, which is like an inanimate box that is looking for somebody to go inside of him, unload in him. We find out his name is Thomas. Keenan is there as the UPS guy waiting to collect the sample. We get to see different Cologuards show up, I believe voiced by Chloe and Sarah. I think Mikey was the main Cologuard. And then, of course, we also get Andrew and Heidi across the street worried about Woody himself. So Haynes, did you like Cologuard?
I absolutely loved it. Yeah. So this was probably my favorite of the night. And yeah, I mean, it felt like my favorite of the night when I was watching it. I just loved how I really loved it when they cranked it up a notch, and the presumably female-esque box shows up like talking really dirty. She kind of ratcheted it up to another level. And they really started leaning on this unleash on me, phrase, which it just sounds really violent, and sexual. And so, yeah, I just thought it had great escalation. It had kind of 10-to-1 vibes. It was funny that Keenan was kind of watching this whole thing. And then, of course, at the end, they become really threatening. And then we get the reveal that, from the neighbors, I guess, that he's, maybe just really high or something. I wonder if, was there a Cologuard commercial where they have a talking box that they were making fun? Because I haven't seen that commercial, but I have heard other.
Yes.
I've heard that there's other sketches that have made fun of this Cologuard box before. So I haven't seen the original commercial, but I mean, this was the best sketch of the night.
I would probably agree. I think this was hands down had some really like fun elements, and it got pretty raunchy. Jillian, what do you think?
Yeah, I liked it. This is probably I guess I'll put it at third of the night for me. But I really enjoyed the turn at the end that he was hallucinating. I'm not familiar with the commercial, so if there is a box in that commercial, that is even funnier, I guess. But yeah, at the end when Andrew says, "I'm gonna stay out here and watch him unleash," I really got a kick out of that.
This is so good. I love the please unloaded him, and I love that all the boxes were coming because they got got excited about the whole thing, and it was very, very good.
It was awesome, and it was nice too. Like they were very, it was a pretty slow dip our toe in the water interaction, with the first box where he's like, yeah, and you can just take a dump right in me, no problem.
I don't think he said that.
No, what it's implied, but whatever he's saying, and but he's like, listen, you'll be cool with it, it's good for me, and then we start leaning into that a little bit more, and he starts to kind of admit, he starts to reveal that he kind of just like really likes it, and then of course we get the other boxes that really ratcheted up a level. So I did like how easily they tiptoed into it. That was really funny, and I mean, that's good escalation when you can laugh at the tiptoe and the intensity as it really goes up. So to me, it was funny the whole way through. We weren't just laughing because it went from an easy place to an extreme place, but even tiptoeing into that easy place was really starting to get some laughs out of me early. So I thought the whole thing was just really well done.
And it wasn't even just like the interaction between Woody and the boxes. It's also the fact that Keenan wants to watch and then Andrew wants to watch from across the street. Like they also had that there. To me, this was perfect. I really loved Cologuard. Let's talk about.
I was not expecting a scat sketch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's talk about Jack White a little bit. So, Haynes, you said you thought, if I remember correctly, that Jack White was your favorite part of the night. So, are you a fan of Jack White? How do you enjoy what you got to see tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I am a fan of Jack White. I'm not like, an extreme diehard person who follows every one of his moves. I can't name every song on every album or anything like that. I just, I have seen him live before, but I just thought it was a real kick-ass performance, and he seems to bring that every time he comes to SNL. I really thought, the last time he was on was exceptional. I believe that was 45, and it was just
alone.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know. I just thought he just, for an episode that took a lot of time to start warming up. And like, we did have some good stuff. I like the PDD a lot, and I really love the Cologuard. But we don't usually spend a lot of time talking about music on this show. But to me, particularly the first performance was just super explosive. It was just, I just really sucked in. And I'm, like I said, I'm not a person who's like sitting around obsessing about Jack White. I just happen to think that these performances, particularly the first one, was just like really just knock your socks off. Good stuff. So just thought it was a highlight.
For sure. And I just don't want anybody to kill us in the comments. So I just want to say the White Stripes originally performed season 28, and then we had Jack White for the previous 4 times. So season 37, season 43, and then season 46 before coming back for season 48. So those were the 5.
46,
Jack White.
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was our first season covering the show. It was Bill Burr episode. So,
oh, yeah.
Jillian, how did you feel about Jack White tonight?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I am a fan. I love this song. I loved Woody's intro of saying, he's been here 5 times too. Does he get a jacket? Which we didn't know would pay off later. But I love that it did. And I just thought it was great energy and great to really rock out on the show.
For sure. This is going to get a lot of play on that SNL host introing the musical guests Twitter account.
Yes.
I'm sure they'll play that a lot in the future. Let's head over to Weekend Updates, where we get 2 different correspondents joining Jost and Shay this week. And we'll start with James Austin Johnson, as former 2-time NBA champion and MVP, played for the Trailblazers and the Celtics, and 2-time NCAA champion for John Wooden's UCLA Bruins. Bill Walton comes in, JAJ's first time solo on Weekend Update, coming in to talk some entertainment while also calling a Lakers game. So, Jillian, how do you feel that JAJ did first time solo on Update?
Well, I heard the name, but I am not familiar with this man. Sorry to this man. So great, I guess. I know. So I have no idea how his impersonation was, but I still got a kick out of it when he started making the calls. So I will let you guys tell me how he did in the impression.
Sure. I will say that like Bill Walton is known as being like the weirdest, craziest, most eccentric, NBA and mostly NCAA color commentator, I'd say, right, Haynes? And, his clips go viral all the time for similar to a Woody Harrelson monologue. Like tonight, sometimes he'll go on these insane rants during a game that nobody has any idea what he's talking about. So I'm not surprised this finally got covered on SNL. Haynes, what did you think of it?
I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. So awesome. As someone who has heard Bill Walton's commentary before, it is exactly like this. He goes on, he loves to just wax poetic and he speaks very lyrically, and he really does talk about like the cosmos and stuff. He is he's a very super open Grateful Dead fan. That's like part of who he is and his character. Like he talks about the Grateful Dead all the time. So he wears tie-dye shirts and stuff. He was an activist back in the day. And he's very much this like big hippie guy. And he really does like go off on these tangents talking about the universe and quoting philosophers and stuff like while there's a game going on. So this was spot on. And the voice was really great, but it was full of really great lines. These people obviously, I don't know if who wrote this with JAJ, but these people have studied Bill Walton. If it was just JAJ who wrote this, he's studied Bill Walton, and they just did a really good job kind of parodying the kinds of things he would say. I loved the line where he said, "God herself birthed the tectonic marvel that is Los Angeles." And I just that is exactly the kind of shit that he says. And I just thought this was spot on. Thought it was awesome. I thought both the characters were awesome. I can't wait to talk about the next one, but we'll finish up with Bill Walton here.
Yeah. In real life, Walton, he pairs with this guy, Jason Benetti, a lot. They have great chemistry. And like, I'd suggest you go look up Bill Walton clips if you did enjoy this, because it was really funny. But let's head over to Heidi Gardner's character. Gina Bianchi, I believe, is the woman with 4 daughters and 1 son, who is talking about her family, but it's really like a very Freudian thing going on where she loves her son so much, so much so that it seems like she would like to date her son. Jillian, how did you feel about Heidi's character on Update?
Yeah, I thought this was a funny character. I liked the conceit of it, of the son being basically a criminal who was stealing from her while the daughters were doctors who bought her a house, but that's her son, so she loves him the most. But then when it took the turn of my son, I would if I could, and talking about the girlfriend, yeah, I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, this got pretty wild. Haynes, this actually reminded me a little bit when I was watching this. It reminded me a little bit of a Kristen Wiig style character, where I could really see Kristen playing something like this. And that was the first time I think I ever made that connection between Heidi and Kristen. But I really felt like it had those elements tonight. I thought this was very funny. Haynes, how do you feel about it?
I thought it was so awesome. I thought it was really, really good. I've seen this type of character before, in other media, TV shows or movies. I've seen this type of character. I've never really been around someone exactly like this, but I knew exactly the type of character that she was doing. This mom who seems to just think her son is, the absolute golden child. And, like Jillian said, he's really just, abusing her. And she is in such denial over it that she creates an entire fantasy world where it all feels like jokes and just like brilliant humor to her, when really he's just, like hurting her. I thought so there's a little bit of darkness there. I just thought it was really funny. The guy's 38 years old, and yeah, when she took it to the if I could, I would, and then she repeats it a few times. That really took it up a level. I don't know enough about psychology to talk about where this type of person comes from and what kind of experiences lead them to this moment in life. But I loved this character, and it's funny that you say Kristen Wiig, because I don't know why, but it was like, first and foremost, when I saw her haircut, like the style of haircut, maybe I've just seen Kristen Wiig play several characters with like this kind of like fanned out kind of hair or something, but the hair reminded me of like Kristen Wiig characters that I had seen in the past. But as far as the overall character, I just thought it was really, really funny, full of great lines. To me, it was a total hit. Would love to have her back. Would love to have this character back.
Yeah, me too, actually. And it's funny that you both focused on the aspect of his character, which is that the son is like, has this dark thing where he is actually like stealing from her and is manipulating her. What I took away from it was more of the fact that, like, she's like so kind of like secretly in love with her son that she's like commanding his son's girlfriend, I believed, about like what to do sexually to him in the bedroom. Like, it was like, don't forget the balls. Like, I think that like that part of it to me was like so funny and so like not typically what you would get from Heidi. Like, I think it went from like from Heidi, you expect dramatic, but you don't necessarily expect like overtly sexual in that way. And I thought like that was really cool. So for me, I enjoy this. I'll also just say Jost and Shay tonight, I think, like, had a certain point of Update where they were like really, really strong. Like, all the stuff that was like sort of joke swap-esque tonight was really great. What did thanks to Ken in the chat, this is what did they even do wrong bit with Shay. That was really funny.
That was funny.
Yeah, and then he was even thanked the audience right after, because they were really they were giving him everything that they were not giving Woody during his monologue.
100%. All right, up next, we got a lard ass / the hippo, and this is a take on The Whale, the Brendan Fraser Oscar-nominated movie, where we have Mikey as the director and Chloe, Ego, and JJ. They've all done things like dyed their hair or grew a beard for the role in The Hippo, but it's really Woody Harrelson's character as Keith, who gained 450 pounds for this role, and now finds out that the movie is not happening anymore. And this whole time, he could have just gotten into a suit and makeup and not had to do this. But basically, we get the perspective of Woody's character, Keith, who is just so upset that the movie's not happening and that he wasted all of the weight gain for this role when he could have been in a Marvel movie. So, Haynes, how do you feel about The Hippo?
I liked it. It was a little bit of a slow build to get into everything. I guess not too slow, but it's fun the way that it seems like Woody's character seems to keep he becomes more and more the butt of the joke as the sketch goes on, and it's revealed to us, how much of a butt in this joke he is. He's like a classic.
It sounds very very Trumpy of you to say how much of a butt.
Yeah. Pete Butt best. Yeah, like he's a real schlemazel type, like they say a schlemiel's the guy that's always spilling a soup at a party, and the schlemazel's the guy that the soup gets spilled on. Like, this guy is a real schlemazel, I love it when I really liked the joke where of course, when we learned that he could have put on a fat suit, that's amazing. But I also really liked when Disney's character said that he had 28 friends, and then after Woody Harrelson's character gets a laugh at him, he's like, you know what, make it 29 friends. He's like, I wasn't included the first time. So to me, this had some good stuff down the stretch.
Yeah, Jillian, how do you feel about
it? Although I like the joke of a method actor going so hard for no reason, I don't know. Like, I don't need a fat suit on SNL, and I don't need a fat suit on Brendan Fraser either. So I wasn't the biggest fan of this. And especially when it started becoming his new fat body was the butt of the joke, it lost me completely.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think what I felt just from the perspective of Woody is I felt like Woody seemed, as far as the live sketch is concerned, seemed to be like enjoying his role here the most, perhaps, throughout the night, where he was like really into the role and the acting of it. And I felt like it was like a strong Woody performance if we're going to just evaluate the sketch performances. So for me, this was okay. And I think that, it was like a little bit like, why now, when I guess The Whale is an Oscar nominated movie now, but it was like a little bit like, why? But I guess I will say I didn't love at the end that they referred to the fact that The Whale is an actual movie in the world of the sketch. I would rather have had it be that The Whale doesn't actually exist. Okay, then we get our final sketch of the night, which was Beautiful Jim. And this was a Bowen and Woody piece. We also get Michael Longfellow playing a piano. Seems to be playing a lot of pianos lately. Last did it in the Jennifer Coolidge is Impressed by Christmas stuff pre-tape. And we also get Sarah as a Jim crush here. But basically, it's all about a classy Jim. Really should be called the James Jillian.
James.
Yeah, so how do you feel about Beautiful Jim?
This was definitely my sketch of the night, and will definitely be in my top of the season, I'm sure. This was exactly what I wanted from a 10-1. There were so many one-liners. I cannot wait to go watch this sketch again. I think there are going to be things in here that I'm quoting for a while. Just so many one-line. Even when he said, like, what is that? What's that you're playing? A big piano, sir. Just so many little things that this really, really worked for me.
Haynes, did this work for you?
It did work for me. It was, it was very funny. It's done obviously kind of in like a soap opera-esque vibe with the it seemed like a soft lighting kind of feel. And we get some pretty funny jokes. I thought it's so nice. It should be called a James was one of the lines of the night. Like, that got such a hard laugh out of me in the moment. But like you said, Jillian, like, Michael Longfellow is the perfect guy to deliver just that one deadpan line. Like, it's a big piano. He's like, that was cast well. And there's a few other, funny lines. It's funny. He's like, I'm going to go ride the stationary Vespa. It was kind of dumb that they had an actual gym rat. I don't know why I got a laugh out of that, but the audience did too. It was, and I'm a sucker for dumb funny. So that works for me. And like Jillian said, I mean, it felt like a classic 10-1. So I thought it was a fun way to end the episode.
Definitely. And, I would say, yeah, stupid fun to end the night. I also loved the Don Pardo-esque intro to the sketch. And it's like, and
Mhm.
now
Mhm.
two, gym
Yeah.
people. So like
It felt
that
very
type.
nostalgic, old school SNL in that way.
Yes, yes.
Exactly. And I think that was really nice touch by Daryl who did that. So like really I thought this was solid. So for me, I think there was a lot of there's a lot of ups here. There was definitely some downs, but I also want to mention a few other things that happened throughout the night. First is, of course, we got lovely tributes to Eugene Lee on Weekend Update. So that was really great and wonderful. We also got a Richard Belzer memorial photo at the end of the night. But of course, we cannot finish our discussion of the night without talking about the Good Nights, which was a mini sketch in itself where we get, Woody opening up and saying, thank you so much to Jack White. And instead, Jack White gets the Five Timers jacket. And then lo and behold, Scarlett Johansson comes out and gives a jacket to Woody. And apparently Scarlett was not in dress rehearsal. In dress rehearsal, it was Ego who gave the jacket to Woody. So we do get a previous five-timer per the tradition of the Five Timers Club bringing out a jacket to Woody. So they finally get the jackets here in the Good Nights. Haynes, how do you feel like they handled this?
Love it. Maybe some folks were hoping for a full big five-timer sketch. Like you said, it's not always going to be that over the top for everyone. But I liked the way that they did this. I like that we teased it early on, and then of course, and then they semi-tease it, with the Jack White introduction, and then of course, finally first, and they give us a little bit of misdirection joke by giving the first jacket to Jack White. But fun little appearance, cameo appearance from ScarJo. It seemed like. And I loved doing something fun with the Good Nights. And anytime they're going to do something different with the Good Nights, like that's a fun way to end because it's so standard usually. It felt almost like they thought that Woody was really going to kind of finish and do the rest of a real good night after he got his jacket. Like there was the band waited quite a while before they came in. And there was definitely like where the camera was they hadn't cut. Yeah, I mean, it certainly felt like we were waiting for him to say something else, and he didn't. But then the band came in, and then everybody hugs, and that's the end of the night. I thought it was great.
Jillian, I know you are a big fan of SNL and SNL history. So how do you feel like this moment was handled?
Yeah, no, I really loved it. I thought it was different. I'm glad that it wasn't as big as what we saw before. I mean, as fun as it is to have past people come back, it makes it more special when we don't get that every time, or we don't get the same group every time. If Elliot Gould had come on again, I don't know if that would have been as exciting. So this really worked for me. I loved that Jack got the jacket, that there was the fake out of him getting the jacket, and then the reveal of ScarJo. I thought this was really fun, and that it had teased us the entire episode multiple times of both Woody and Jack deserving jackets. So this I thought really worked for me, and I thought was exciting. But now the next time we have a five-timer, we're gonna have to do something completely different.
Yeah, I only wish that the runner happened a few more times throughout the night where he was just really desperately looking for the jacket. I also wish that they stretched out the moment a little bit longer. Our friend Ellis, who was at dress, said in dress rehearsal, they really stretched it out between the time that Jack got the jacket and then Woody did, which I think would have probably added to the moment slightly. I have to wonder if this is what Woody wanted. Did he want a more subtle version of the Five Timers Club? I know it's not always the host call, but it is interesting to sort of think about the perspective of okay, Mulaney gets the biggest party in the world. Paul Rudd was supposed to get a big party, and then Woody sort of gets this. But still very happy for Woody and Jack White here. Let's talk about what was cut from the night, and I'll fill you in a little bit on that. And while we do, Haynes, Jillian, think about your ratings for the night out of 10. Chat, think about it as well. So let me tell you what was cut from dress. So at dress rehearsal, we had another edition of Sarah News on Weekend Update. This would have been the second time since the Chappelle week where Sarah comes on and takes over Weekend Update to do some Sarah News. We also had a sketch that was cut at dress rehearsal called Office Printer, where Woody Harrelson writes a script for the Sex Lives of College Girls, the TV show, and has Sarah Ego, Chloe, and Andrew read it, and Keenan is in this one as well. A couple cut for time sketches as well. This is one called Field Trip Detention, where Woody is on OnlyFans rapping, and his 8th grade students find out about it, and it's a whole reprimanding situation for them misbehaving at the trip, and they get to see the raps. There's also a pre-tape called Musical Promo, where Woody, Keenan, Bowen, and Molly are singing to themselves about, I believe, Amazon packages and being unmuted into Zoom. And JJ, Devin, and Heidi give reviews alongside New York Times and other press outlets. So it is a musical promo about musicals that could potentially pop up somewhere else. Perhaps they do something similar to what we had earlier this month with last month with the flight, the airline pre-tape that was repurposed from the Plaza episode into the Michael B. Jordan episode. So perhaps we will see that coming in. But let's go ahead with our ratings out of 10 for the night. And Haynes, I'll start with you, and everyone in the chat, I'll put yours up as well.
So, as I've talked about, all this episode wasn't super impressed. There was still some good nuggets in there. Overall, I might give it a 5.5.
Okay. Jillian, what about you?
Yeah, I was debating like 5 or 6, so let's go with 5.5 as well, even though it does have my favorite 10-1. As a whole, it just did not, it was too choppy.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say I would probably lean towards giving this one a 5, but I think it's going to get bonus points to a 6 for this being a 5-timers episode. Because for me, when I give ratings, I think about the importance of the given episode. And this will always be, when we look back at season 48 of the show, a notable episode for this particular reason, which is this is Woody's 5th time on the show. Out of the 5 Woody episodes, I would say this is nowhere near my favorite Woody. But I think, for tonight, I think there were some really good elements here, and there were also ones that didn't totally hit. I'm going to land on a 6 here for me from the night. Okay, let's talk about what's coming up here during the week on the Saturday Night Network. There's so much more to talk about from this week. We're going to talk all about the history of Woody Harrelson, and I'm very excited to do that on Monday night with a great all-star panel. We got Andrew Dick joining us on a roundtable for the first time on Monday. He'll be with us with Rich Tackenberg and Kirsten Turnbull to break down everything from this episode, talk about the 5-timers moments, the history of Woody Harrelson on the show. Join us for the roundtable on Monday. It will be an absolute blast. On Wednesday night, Mike Murray will be back with By the Numbers to break down all of the numbers from this particular week. He will be there with Sammy K, and Joel from SNL Archives will be a special guest on that show as well. So if you want to listen to that one, it'll be full of numbers and analytics from the week. And then on Thursday, we will have our patron feedback show where we will answer questions from the week, and look forward to next week in what I'm sure will be a very different show with host Travis Kelce and musical guest Kelsey Ballerini. Very pumped for that one. So we're going to preview all of that later on this week. That will be on Thursday night. And then, of course, we'll be back here with the Hot Take Show in 1 week's time with 2 great guests to talk about everything from that night. Haynes, where can the listeners reach out to you? And thanks for joining us tonight.
So glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Had a blast. Can always find me at Twitter at SNL Has a Cast, and on Instagram at Candrew Attitude.
Jillian, thank you so much for joining us as well. Where can the listeners check out everything you got going on with yourself and over at Entertainment Weekly?
Yep, you can follow me on any social platform at Jillian Sed, S-E-D, and you can follow all of our work at Entertainment Weekly, EW.com, read our recap from tonight's show, and other cast interviews and evergreen pieces.
Awesome. Well, you can check out everything we got going on at the SNN. To find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the SNL Network. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you want to follow me at Jon Schneider 24. On behalf of Haynes, Jillian, and everybody in our chat tonight, I want to thank you for joining us. We will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.